area, and they'll actually create a basin in that area. They'll intercept your main waistline, and they'll put a backflow valve in that waistline, and they'll put another ejector basin that's open within that basin, and they'll open the top of the waistline. The entire basin is now an ejector basin. So what happens if the street backs up, it pushes the check valve closed, it can't flow back into the house, but you're at home and you want to use your water, you can still use your water as long as your ejector pump is functioning in there.
It's called flood control.
Flood control. Mm-hmm. They're a little bit more expensive, those systems, probably $7,000 to $10,000, depending on what type and who makes it. So you have a few different options with an older house. Your inspector should know those. Those are options that you can talk about if you're, purchasing a property maybe that was built in the 1900s. We go into the basement, we see, the base of the posts have been exposed to moisture. You can see a water line. Typically, that's not going to be from seepage. That's going to be from waste backflow. Your seepage is going to be staining like from a crack in the wall, and usually that doesn't build up to a level that you actually see a water line. The seepage builds up only if you don't have drainage down there, but the waste backflow is what creates standing water in there. So, let me small new manufacturer, but usually maintenance. Because if I buy a house and I maybe I use this filter and I have to change it every 4 months, and when I pull it out, it's caked with dirt. What's happening is there's not enough airflow going through the system. And the system is designed with something called a heat limiter. So when you get airflow flowing through this unit, within this heat exchanger, if it gets too hot in there, say 180 degrees, it'll shut down. And if you're not getting enough airflow through there, it'll run for a few minutes and it will shut off. But it still hasn't met the temperature that you put in on your thermostat. It will run again, so it'll go through multiple cycles, whereas if you have good airflow through there, it'll actually run until you actually meet your temperature. The issue is called short cycling. It could be, one of them could be, the reasons could be the filter being clogged. But what that does is the metal now in this heat exchanger goes through a much higher air differential. So if you're allowing it to heat to 180 degrees, it's actually dropping down now, 70 degrees. So you get expansion and contraction of the metal, and that actually limits the life of your heat exchanger. So instead of lasting 20 years, you get 12 years. The metal will fatigue and it will crack.
Just explain why you don't want the heat exchanger to wear out.
Well, the heat exchanger on a forced air system is your primary heat source, whereas an electric furnace, you have heating elements in there, resistance strips that run in, and the air blows over those. Those you can change out. But your heat exchanger contains exhaust. So once this heat exchanger cracks, you basically have carbon monoxide entering your
They have to replace the whole thing.
Well, they can replace the heat exchanger, it's just not worth it. You have to take the whole furnace apart, so, and then you still have a full-filled furnace now with a brand new heat exchanger. So you're much better off once that goes, just replacing the unit. But water heater, that'll depend on water quality. And also, again, manufacturer, water heater companies, I think they expect 20% of their water heaters to fail within the first 6 years. They have a warranty on them. Most of them are 6 years. It's just part of the manufacturing process. That's why it's pretty important to have a leak pan installed. This one does. A lot of the condos that we go to, you might be on the 3rd floor, and if you don't have a leak pan or a floor drain in that condo and that unit breaks or starts to leak, you have an issue. If you're not around, you have an issue with damaging other units or even your flooring. And it does happen. But typically, this will give you about 12, 15 years. We have a couple different parts to the water heater. This is a cold water dip tube, and your cold water is sent down through to the bottom where you actually have heating. The warm water rises, so it creates a natural cycle, and that's where the hot water comes out this way. This is your cold water inlet on this side. Jeff added on here a mixer, and you can do that actually for a safety feature. It actually will sense the temperature and will mix cold water in, say if you have kids and you don't want the temperature to be over 120 degrees for a scald hazard. This will sense it, and this will mix that water right into that area of that valve. This is a rod in here, and what this does is actually, if this is well maintained, this will give you your lifespan of the water heater. Usually it's made out of magnesium, and it attracts some of the minerals on there that normally would corrode the water heater, and it attracts that and it corrodes. Sometimes this can corrode and you need to replace it. And they're not too expensive, they're about $20. Your water heater, some of them have are newer designs, and they have a swirl technology where they actually, the tube is designed to actually wash the bottom of the water heater to prevent minerals from depositing on the bottom. That'll extend the life, because we come into a house, maybe the water heater is only 7 years old, but when we turn up the heat a little bit, you'll start to hear the unit knocking, and that knocking is usually from sediment at the bottom, causing uneven heating. Another way to limit sediment, if you don't have that swirl technology, you come in here and you open this valve and you drain about a gallon of water out of there per month. One time per month, open it up, let the bottom drain out, just dump it into a sink, and that'll help maintain the life of the water heater too. Most people don't do that though.
How do you know when the dip tube is bad?
You'll actually, some people will see when you take off, say your water flow is restricted at your faucet in your bathroom. You can unscrew the aerator on top, and you'll actually see that wet material in there, broken down. So when you take this out, they have a few that manufacturing defects. You would see this clogging, that wet material broken down. Almost, you'll see it running right through there, and you'll actually lose hot water flow too. So instead of you take a nice 30-minute shower and you usually have 30 minutes of hot water, wow, it's getting cold early. Your water heater actually may have sediment on the bottom, or the dip tube may actually be deteriorated. Because what you're doing when this breaks down, you're shooting cold water up top. So you're not getting the hot water that you normally would have. So you're interfering with the natural process of the warm water or the hot water going to the top, and that being the hot water that comes through your fixture. Oh, electrical. Do we have time?
Yeah.